I think that every high-level and competitive hockey player above the age of about 13 is eventually going to have a performance coach. They're going to have a performance team, and they're going to have a virtual team that they really build themselves, and then they're going to learn to hire out the right people for the right things. They're going to buy the courses that they need. They're going to buy consultations that they need. They're going to hire in-person people that they need to help them. This is what businesses do. And I'm starting to notice that hockey is becoming more and more like a business, which is quite interesting. And so if you want to learn the way to become the best player you can be, it's probably helpful to consider business in terms of what does it take for a small business to be able to grow and expand? How do they actually develop themselves into a better value delivery system? Because that's really what a business is it's a value delivery system. And so what I want to talk about today is how important it is to start to treat the information you get online and from people as building a performance team. And you can do this virtually, and it truly is the future of performance. It's the future of being a great hockey player. So you want to start studying this stuff now if you want to get ahead of the curve, because if you wait until it's just a common thing, well then you're just doing it just to maintain. But you can do it right now and get ahead of people. So let's get into it. So the first analogy I want to make here is the idea that hockey development is a lot like growing a fruit tree. And think of it like having 3 fruit trees, right? So there's some oranges there. And think of it like having 3 fruit trees, right? You have the mind, you have the body, and you have skills. And I understand that this sounds ridiculous, but I want you to think about this. Right, so you have those 3 areas, those are the 3 trees, and they bear fruit if you develop them properly. If you actually, they grow and they survive and they thrive, you get a lot of positive outcomes. You get fruit when you grow a fruit tree. But in hockey, you have goals, you have assists, you have wins, you have college offers, you have pro offers, you have cool places you get to travel, you're confident, you're happy, you're enjoying life, you have less anxiety and stress. Right? Those are all the fruits that you get for your effort or your labor. There's a concept saying like the fruit of your labor. That's what that is. And so what you want to realize is that the way that you treat your mind, body, and your skill is directly going to correlate with the fruits that you get. The goals, assists, wins, college offers, pro offers, travel, how you feel, how you think, how you act, right? The money you make. It's probably one of the biggest ones that a lot of players don't think about, is that if you are a lower level professional player versus a kind of like AHL level player, sometimes you're talking about, going from 30,000 to 100,000. You're going to 200,000 a year. And once you start getting into that range, it really dramatically changes what you can do with your life. And so many players don't want to put that little extra bit of work in to nudge themselves over the edge, but that's how you get the fruit, is you develop the plant so that it actually puts things out that you want. So now, here's what most people do. And this is what I'm saying that a lot of players do in the lower level pros, the lower level minor, or lower level junior leagues, in minor hockey. It's a different conversation, so we're not going to get into this too much. But generally speaking, what happens is most people treat their careers like people who neglect a plant, right? They forget to water the plant for a few weeks, and they just drown it once in a while in effort and energy, and they just like throw a bunch of stuff and see what happens. The plant doesn't get enough nutrients, so they just throw a bunch of stuff and it overwhelm it, and a lot of times that can actually kill it if you put too much. Don't give your plant proper sunlight, and then it doesn't produce fruits, and we're wondering, man, we put in all this extra effort, all this extra energy to grow these plants, but then now I don't get anything for it. And why is that? Well, it's because you did 90% of the work or 99% of the work, but to get the fruits, you need to do all of the work. And if you want to get the maximum amount, you got to make sure that you do everything you can. And so many players just neglect this. And they totally don't realize that the reason that certain players will succeed over you is because you did 90% of the work and they did 99 or 100. Right? Maybe they did 10% more. Sometimes you do 98, but they do 99. And it's just that threshold that just pushes them over the edge. And everybody's different. But it's that little bit. And it's also about doing the right things. And when I say the right things, I mean the most effective things that you can figure out or that someone can coach you to do. And that's where this transitions, is that you want to, if you want to get a plant to grow the best thing you can do is look it up and figure it out. And even better than just looking it up, get someone who's an expert to just tell you what to do. Because sometimes one conversation, they can just tell you and list out, hey, you got to do this, this, and this. That's that type of tree. You need to make sure it gets this thing and this nutrients. It needs this amount of light. And boom, now you're done. You know exactly what to do and you can execute it. So here's the lesson that you can learn as a hockey player is when I watch people develop, they don't really put emphasis into everything, and then they wonder why they're not succeeding, right? Why they don't get the fruits of their labor. And it's because they have a lot of areas that are just like lagging. They're just kind of trying to survive. And their mind and body and skills are just withering away. And that's the thing, is it comes down, like if you want to perform well, it comes down to 4 key things. You have the mind, body, skill, then you have luck. Luck's the one that you can influence by putting yourself in the best positions and having the other 3. So many players rely on luck, but they don't have the other 3. But if you have the other 3, then luck just starts to find you because you're prepared when you get the bounces. And so many players are just trying to survive in leagues, but very few are growing and thriving. And why is that? Well, it's basically what I just said. It's because they get super motivated, right? They're like, oh man, I can't wait. I'm so fired up. I love playing hockey. I learned this new thing. They push themselves hard. Maybe they get tired. Maybe they get bored. They'll do the extra work for a few days or a few weeks, and the motivation fizzles out. And then they don't feel like they're motivated on some days, and they go easy, and they don't get the maximum out of themselves. This is super common. And you see this with hockey careers all the time. And so the question is, if you do the smallest inputs, which a lot of people try to do you really expect you're going to get the largest outputs? You tell me. So neglecting your fruit trees. I know this is such a funny analogy, but I want to hammer it home because you'll probably never forget it now. So as I continue to preach these 3 areas, like every single article I feel like I write, I talk about these. But you have the mental mechanics, you have your physical capacity, you have your skill capacity. Anytime you go into a situation, you want to have all 3 to give yourself the best chance of succeeding. And most players will forget to pay attention to 1 or more of these 3 areas, and then that area starts to wither away. And I made this mistake many times in my career. And for example, here is the process that I used to go through in terms of injuries. So with injury prevention work, what would happen is I would go hard for a week and I'd push myself super hard in the gym, in hockey, and everything I was doing. I would sustain a little injury or soreness, and I was motivated to fix it. And so I would go hard, I would work on fixing it. I would get sick of it, I would neglect it for a while, and then I'd get hurt again because I neglected it. I would realize and notice that my physical preparedness in that area was withering away like an unwatered plant. So I would then go crazy again and basically like drown the plant in water for a few days. Sometimes I'd overdo it and overwork the muscle or the area, and I'd go crazy. Eventually it would feel better, and then I would let go of it again, and I would stop paying attention to it, and it'd wither away, and then I'd try to save it. And it was this constant reactivity. I was constantly reacting, right? And this is the thing, is I did it with film work, I did it with meditations and visualizations, I did it with skill training. The reason I have programs where it's actually a community and there's accountability is because I used to think, oh yeah, just knowing it works, I'll fix it. And then I just never really did it consistently. And now I'm on all of my guys to stay consistent because I know that you don't get much if you don't do the actual work consistently. The plant just withers away. I did this with almost every area of my game, and you can't just spend a day or a week. You can't just water a plant one time and hope it works out. So this is the lesson I want you to learn, and learn it from me. don't just spend a few days or a few weeks and expect to have world-class skill. So don't just work on a skill and expect the skill to come in a day. You can't just visualize and meditate and read a book a day or once in a while and expect to have an unstoppable mind. And you can't just work out for 2 hours a day or 3 hours and work really hard in a day and then just expect for your body to become freakishly athletic or strong or powerful. Success comes from what you consistently do for a long period of time. Start thinking in terms of 5 to 10 years instead of thinking in these short, 5 to 10 day intervals. The 5 to 10 day intervals will kill you. It will crush your career and it will hold you back. So what do you want to do? How do you actually learn from this and take action on what I just said? Well, how you actually take action is that instead of being reactive to when things go wrong or the plant starts to die, what you want to do is be proactive. Be proactive instead of reactive. And I wish I had have been more proactive. And what it means to be proactive is that you actually prepare in advance for things. You look ahead and you actually work on things and prevent them from actually happening down the line. So for example, you could say, I predict that my shooting ability is going to hold me back when I move to the next level. I'm scoring a good amount of goals here, but I know it's not going to translate. So instead of being reactive when I get to the next level and try to change my whole shooting style, what I do is I be proactive and I go to a shooting coach and learn how to shoot at a higher level. I learn different deceptive techniques. I learn different footwork patterns. I learn different zone entries and angles and where to shoot on a goalie. So I learn those things proactively so that when I get to the next level, maybe I don't start scoring a ton now in my current league, but I can translate it over really quickly. And boom, now I'm successful at the next level because I was proactive. Another one is if you predict that your mental game is going to get in the way in the future, well then be proactive and hire a mental coach and take your mental game to the next level now so that mentally you're ready for that next level or the difficult situation. A lot of players are not proactive about being confident and focused and having high IQ, and then they get to a championship game and they're like, man, I'm not ready for this. It's like, yeah, no shit, you're not ready for it because you weren't proactively preparing yourself. Your plant is withering away, and a week before the game or a week before the championship, you're like, man, I didn't work on my mental game at all, and I'm super nervous, and I have no confidence in myself. It's like, yeah, of course. So that's why I make these longer form videos, because I want you guys to realize, you got to actually take action on this stuff. You got to take it seriously now and be proactive now so you can enjoy the fruits later. Because it's a lot more fun when the end of the season comes around, knowing that you did all the work you could and you win the championship, or even if you do all the work and you don't, but you're proud of what you accomplished, versus you get to the end of the season and you could have done a little bit more, but you didn't, so you end up losing earlier on. And it's really frustrating when you get there knowing that. So just don't do that. And so building from this point in terms of being proactive, be proactive by learning from people who actually have done the research or who have experienced what you've experienced or experienced what you're about to experience, right? Whatever it takes, but go and get help from those people. The most proactive thing is you can go and just really simply just start asking people who've done the thing you've done and say, hey, can you help me in this area? So if you know that your skating is weak, go and get help in your skating. Go and ask the people who are better than you. You can look at your fruit tree and say, hey, this one needs a bit of sunlight. This one needs some nutrients. This one's overwatered. Maybe take a little bit out of stop watering it so much, right? So in the terms of training, it's maybe you talk to somebody about your game and they say, hey, your physical training, you're overdoing it. You're pushing yourself too hard right now and it's holding back other things. I know one of my clients had started taking a creatine supplement and was getting these really weird responses, and their legs were getting really heavy and they felt slow on the ice whenever they got a little tired. They never thought of it, and then all of a sudden I kind of broke it down and figured out that they had something weird happening and responding to it. We cut it out, and all of a sudden their performance went right back, right? And that's something that we were able to proactively, in a sense, shut it down, as opposed to he might have spent a long time not knowing what was wrong, and it would have sucked. Imagine he had done that for a whole season and just thought, yeah, well, I guess I'm just out of shape. And he kept working harder in the gym and pushing himself and skating more and never got that benefit, right? And that's what happens when you reach these, what I would call like a pivot point. And I've said this in previous short form videos, is it's not necessarily how hard you work in life. It's more important about how many times you actually make a pivot in the trajectory of your development. And so what kind of happens is that we basically, if you were to draw it, is like we move on this like straight line, and then we learn something, and then it kind of changes our trajectory, and then we kind of maybe plateau again, and then we move up, we learn something, and it nudges us up, and then we plateau. And what a coach does is they help shorten the plateau times, and they also help prevent when maybe you're going to dip down and start to dip. They're able to catch it, like when my player started to have that weird reaction with the creatine stuff, and they're able to pivot it back and get you back on a positive path. And if you can make more pivots and pivot up faster, you're going to get ahead of people. That's what puts you ahead. And so it's so beyond valuable to remind yourself that learning from other people and being proactive is huge. And sometimes it's just realizing like, hey, like maybe I put a little bit too much emphasis into my skills work, and what I've been neglecting is that, like, again, I don't have the confidence to actually execute the skills I have. So instead of stick handling for an hour a day, maybe it's time to work on some mental tools like doing meditation work or visualization work, or whatever else. It could be breath work, it could be affirmations, it could be you doing like mental programming sessions, which is a much more complicated topic we're not going to get into today. But there's so many things you could do. And this is just in like one of many examples. And just remember that when you do the actions that lead to the fruit tree growing, you get the fruits, like the points, the assists, the wins, the college offers, the attention, all the accolades. And the best move is no one knows everything. But what I think is best is that you have somebody that is the co-CEO who works with you. So then you want to have that kind of like core person you work with, and then you want to build that team around you. And that's what I help all my guys do, is just be like, hey, you should probably talk to a nutritionist now because you've kind of maxed out most areas, but nutrition-wise, I think you're struggling. And I've given you the foundations of how to actually approach nutrition. But I think it's time to figure out what allergies you have. It's time to figure out how your body responds to certain things. That's when you go deeper. That's why it's so important to have somebody to work with you. Then, here's another thing when it comes to building your virtual team. What I want to do is I want to reiterate. I'm not saying you need to hire 6 different coaches and spend $20K a month to develop your game. It just wouldn't be useful for most players to do that. A lot of players aren't even ready to be investing like just an insane amount per month into their game. Now, obviously, that's $250,000, so I'm not saying that's even expected. But, McKinnon or somebody like that hires like a personal chef for like $100K a year to live with them. Like, there's a lot of stuff that they do. So what I'm saying is that there is an approach you can take that allows you to develop your own virtual team, like a tribe of mentors that you can learn from. And the point is to actually leverage the information and the experts out there and really maximize every asset of your game. Build these like virtual characters that you can work with. And you have tons of access to all the stuff I talk about. So there's one person to start with. And what's amazing is that we really have access to all this stuff for free. And you can even buy programs like my program and many other ones where it's like the cost of like an iPad. And a lot of people go and buy an iPad or an iPhone for like $1-2K. And they're like, man, it's totally worth it. But then like when it comes to learning about the thing that they want to succeed at, they won't invest in it. And it's like, well, maybe either you don't want to and you don't want it that bad, or there's something else getting in the way and you got to figure out what that is. But you got to learn the information that you need, because information is power. Information is leverage. Leverage is what allows you to be able to lift more with the same amount of energy. So once you start working as hard as you can, then it's about getting more leverage and learning the things you want. And so here's kind of the 2 core phases you want to take or want to go into when it comes to actually building that ability. And first of all, you want to get obsessed with one topic. That's the first place to start. And then what you want to do is go into phase 1, which is research. And this can take from anywhere from 60 to 180 minutes in your first kind of session, but you can just do this anytime. So first of all, you get obsessed with a topic, you grab a notebook, or you make digital notes. You can do it on a laptop, you can do it on anything really. Then you go online and search Google for the topic that you want to look into. So you can take detailed notes on anything. Let's just say, for example, it's breakouts. So you go online, you search how to do breakouts. First thing you should do is go and read articles, because articles are typically more detailed. Then you want to find like 3 to 5 articles. You don't want to just listen to one, because one person doesn't know everything. I don't know everything, so listen to multiple people. Build your virtual team, and then take some notes after. That's number 6. Take some notes. Then read at least, right? Like read your 3 articles. And I meant to say, I think YouTube videos here, so I got to fix this. Yeah, let's actually restart this. I'm not going to edit this out, but again, just going back a little bit up here, instead of what I meant to say is just find the top 3 people in the area that you want to actually go into, and think of this as like your virtual team. And then after that, after each note, make sure that you write the first thing that comes to your mind. Sorry, I screwed this up, but this is live. I go into these and just record like one take, so sometimes I'll screw it up a bit. But yeah, you find those 3 to 5 people when you Google, and you start to say, okay, these are the main people I want to learn from, and you can add more after. Then you read the 3 to 5 articles that really stand out, and you don't want to be dogmatic and think like this is the only way. So that's why you have multiple people take in multiple perspectives. Then continue to take notes. Then go on YouTube and watch 3 to 5 videos. Sometimes you can find even more. So just watch a bunch of different videos. Continue to take notes. Then go to the short form platforms. Go in, search the thing you want to learn about, breakouts, for example. Take notes, watch videos, learn, save videos that stand out to you. Go back over all your notes at the end and basically ask yourself, like, what worked, what didn't, and what do I want to try? And then once you kind of feel like, okay, I have a good grasp of this, you're ready to move on to phase 2. If you don't feel like you have a good grasp of the concept, go back and just repeat this process. And you can go and just read all of this stuff online. So I have this stuff at courseinsurals.com/blog. And it might be identityshifthockey/blog or identityshifthockey.com/blog. Or going to be switching the name over soon. And then phase 2, experimenting. So now you've done the research, but now we want to get into visualizing yourself executing the skills. So what you want to do is take notes on what you discovered, work on the skill off ice, take notes on what you discover when you work on it off ice, use it in a practice, again, reflect, take notes, go back over all your notes at the end of the week of what you learned after doing it for 7 days, and ask yourself what worked, what didn't work, what did I learn more about in my research now that I experimented, and what should I go back and learn more about? What should I try next in my experiments? And then try this system out for another 6 months, right? So you just pick a new topic and go into it and do that research system, and then you go and experiment for a week. Go and research something, go experiment, and try it out and watch what happens in 6 months. The key is to reflect, because most people do some research, but then they never actually reflect and create a note system. So that's where they kind of get held up. And again, in the Next Level Academy, we have a system for that. It's like an electronic document. It might go public eventually, but right now we're all using it and testing it. So there's a lot of cool stuff going on there. And yeah, I'm plugging the program, I know, but I love it. It's my favorite thing to do, so I'm going to plug it every time. So, and again, the reflection is where exponential growth happens. That's where those pivot points happen. You don't get those pivot points if you neglect that. Now, here's the biggest thing, is I want to make sure you don't get dogmatic. The mistake that I made as a hockey player and as a person in general is I used to get really obsessed with one person and think that they knew everything. I'd be like, this person's going to take me to the top. Don't get caught up in that, because that is thinking that one thing is true and there's no way it couldn't be true. You don't question it. You don't think, oh, maybe there's something else. You just say, this is my belief, and if this is real, it's not like this is just something I believe, but this is just the way it is. That's being dogmatic. Do not be that way. It will hold you back. I promise you, just please take my advice with this and ask for other opinions. When I tell you something, go and look at what other people are saying. Don't just take my word for it. Listen to what other people say. The reason I say stuff is it's because what a bunch of other smart people say, and I try to take it and synthesize it into something that's actually valuable for hockey players. I take a lot of business stuff and try to make it applicable for athletes and hockey players. That's the goal. So that's the thing, is when you build your team and when you're building out your virtual team, again, you want to have a co-CEO, right? You want to have that one performance coach. But then you can build out. You can have a bunch of mental coaches that you learn from and experts there. You can have a lot of physical trainer approaches, but I recommend having more like one because you don't want to get too confused with how you train, but also getting too dogmatic with your training, and physical training can hurt you. So you want to make sure you cycle and change things up once in a while. Same thing with skill development. You should have a skill development coach. That's something your performance coach will probably do. It's what I do with my guys. But a good on-ice skills performance coach is really important for a lot of players because they're going to help guide you and develop the right skills at the right time. It's very, very common to just go to random skills coaches, do group sessions, and never really develop the right skills at the right time. So that's why you got to pay attention to that. No matter how young the player is, it's a big component of becoming a great player is making sure you actually go on the right path. Because you can go somewhere fast, but if it's not the right direction, it doesn't really matter. So that's really important. You also have an injury prevention coach, so like a yoga coach. Your skills development coach may do this, but sometimes it's worth it if you feel like you need to go to like a physiotherapist or maybe an osteopath, but a person who understands the body. Very, very key. You can also go to a nutritionist. That's usually like the last thing I'd recommend. But if you're really low energy, can't figure out what it is, you might want to consider it could be nutrition that's holding you back. So that's really it. That's what I have to say today. And just going back through this, just reminding yourself that, like, are you neglecting your mind, your body, your skill? And is that really the reason why you're not getting the fruits that you want? And maybe right now you're just early in the process. But if you're not really following this system of doing research and really doing the reflections, building your virtual team, and you're not experimenting and then going out and then working with experts and building out the right people to hire, then that might be why you're not where you want to be. And so if you want to actually get a program, a virtual program where I act as your personal performance coach, then I want to help you do that. I want to help you bring back joy to playing hockey again. I want to help you reach the next level in your career, whether it's going from late minor to junior hockey or major junior, whether you're trying to go college, whether you're trying to go pro, whether you're trying to save hundreds of dollars and save hundreds and thousands of hours of studying, because I've done all that time. That's the work that you won't have to do because I can just give you that info in condensed and impactful ways. If you want to learn from a virtual team of mentors that I've really brought together, I've looked at what all the best players in the world do. I've looked at what works and doesn't work, put together those systems in terms of mind, body, and skill. And then if you want to learn and chat with dozens of high-level players all the way from minor, prep school, college, professional, I think I said junior, but junior, I have players in all the different levels, and it is super, super cool to get to see everybody all interact in there, and it's a great place to be. And so that's the Next Level Academy. So if you want to join that, feel free. But I'm losing my voice, so I'm going to have to stop here. But I hope you have an awesome, awesome day, weekend, week, wherever you're at right now. I hope you're crushing it with your career. If you're a parent listening to this and you're interested and want to just have a chat, we can also book a call. So if you apply and you let me know like who your son or daughter is and you're really interested in getting help, just apply and talk about that, and we'll let you know if I think I can help you. I can't help everybody. That's typically why I work with players who are pretty much like 13 and up, but anybody under 15 is really important for me to get on a call and just have a really detailed conversation with them and their parents to see what the expectations are. I typically work with players more for longer periods in terms of like, typically with any player, it's like 3 months, but a younger player, It's typically going to be like closer to 6 months to really get a lot of effect. But sometimes I've seen it work out faster. So that's my plug for the day. Join the Next Level Academy. The prices are going to be going up soon in that program, so you want to check it out as soon as you can. And if you do get it when the price is up, it's still going to be great. So, all right. Have a good one. That's all I got to say. Have a great day.